Hi, welcome back to Homemaker Living. My name is Teresa, and today I'm going to be transplanting strawberries. I had 2 strawberry beds last year. This first bed that's empty was full of transplants that I had brought from our last home. I think there was 18 to 20 in there. And then this bed I planted about 24 or 27 new bare root strawberries that I got from Territorial Seed, and they are the variety Albion, A-L-B-I-O-N, and they outperformed my old berries amazingly. Big fruit, juicy fruit, firm, lasted in the fridge in a jar for 2 weeks before I even had to process them or worry about them going bad. So I decided to get rid of this bed. I actually gave them away to a neighbor, and the Albions are so prolific with daughters. I couldn't even keep up after them. The runners they put out with the daughters they produce every year. So these brown ones that have made it through, I hope through the winter, are the original. I planted them every 10, 12, 14 inches, trying to get them to a water source. I have drip irrigation in my beds, and the irrigation is spaced like every 8 inches. So 8 inches is too close to put them together. So I tried to, and I didn't want to put them 16 inches apart. So I tried to do them, I don't know, like I said, 10 to 12 to get them close to that. So all of these with the green tops were the daughters, the runners that were produced. And my plan this year is to replace any that may have not survived the winter. This one's not showing any green yet. This is one of my originals. And this one isn't either, but here's one kind of close to it. So I'm gonna wait and see if these produce any green before I swap them out for some of the daughters. But my plan is what I did was I marked every one that's a daughter with these little hooks, and there's 54 in here. I planted originally, like I said, 24 or 27 plants, and I have an additional 54 plants in here. So I'm going to take, let me see, about 24 to 27 and put them in this bed. And then that'll leave me with 30 or so to either transplant the ones that didn't make it and or give them away. I don't know how many I'm gonna have left because I just don't know how many survived. So at any rate, my plan today is to go ahead and move some of them over. So I've selected the strawberry. I'm gonna go ahead and dig up. This one is a separate one. It's really close to a hole. I might wanna keep that one. I'll just pull the straw away. As you can see, I have it mulched with straw for the winter. Last year during the season, I had pine shavings in here because this hay came with, or the straw came with, a ton of seeds, and I was weeding oat green out of all of my beds that I had this in, so I was reluctant to use it, but it's what I had at the end of the season. You can see this one doesn't have any over the winter, and it's dried out more so than obviously this more rich looking soil. So it is important to cover your beds. I just don't cover all of mine because I have like 36, and it just is not cost effective. And I took the pine shavings out at the end of the season last year as it was recommended to prevent any pests and disease from overwintering. And then again, I used this straw because it's what I had, but I was reluctant because of all of the weeds that grow with it. But I will be covering both beds with some kind of mulch, as well as I do cover my tomatoes. My asparagus was covered for winter, and my garlic. Other than that, I don't use mulch in all my beds. So at any rate, that's why you see it here. I'm gonna go ahead and see what this root system looks like. I will just dig down and get out as much as I can surrounding it. Strawberries are very resilient. You know, they kind of grow like a weed. And so, see about getting as many roots as I can get, and then get underneath it and pop it out. Let's see what it looks like. Last year at the end of the season, I cut off all of the, this was the runner that went to the mother plant. So I cut them all off, let them be on their own all winter before they went dormant. And so they should be good to go. You can see all of the root development on this particular one. So now we'll move over and plant it in our selected hole. Last year at the end of the season, I went ahead and put in some homemade compost and some azomite in here to just kind of put it to bed for the winter. And then I will add more compost on the surface in a week or two after we get a load from the local nursery. I do have a good composting system, but I don't produce enough compost yet for all of these beds. I don't know if I ever will, but I'm gonna try. And at any rate, so this bed will get a little bit more love in the future, but right now I want to get these strawberries in here. So what I've already done is I measured out anywhere between 10 to 14 inches in between the plants, as close to a watering hole as I can. So I've already measured them out and got, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. So I have potentially, I guess 9 strawberries per row, which gives me about 27, which is what I put in there last year. So let's go ahead and start getting these in the ground. And I don't want to make the hole too much bigger than this little guy is. You have to plant strawberries so the crown, as you can see where the soil level was, you want the crown to be this little knuckle part, this part right here, to be above the soil, or if it's too low, and it will rot and it won't survive. And you don't want them too high, which I do have one over there. I planted way too high, which I can show you. Then when it's in the wind and it gets floppy, it's not as strong as well. So that one I probably either need to get rid of or dig a little deeper at any rate. So just kind of test your hole, because I want to put some of this compost in here. Put a little compost in there. And again, I'll top dress this with compost so that when it waters and it rains, it'll wash those nutrients down, but just so this guy has a little bit more to start off with. And then I just fill the hole. And as I fill the hole, I can kind of feel where the soil line is, and I might pop him up a little bit just to make sure I don't have him too deep. So that looks good. And then I'll come in and water them. So now I'm going to go ahead and put on, as I mentioned earlier, this biofish, but I'm also going to add the azomite, which I put in every bed annually, and it actually adds trace minerals back to the soil. I always use Down to Earth. Those are my go-to for all of my amendments. They're OMRI products, so that means that they are approved for organic gardening. And so this is basically a mineral product that was mined in central Utah, and it says it's from ancient volcanic erupted ash settled into prehistoric seabed, creating a complex mineral composition. It improves plant and root system growth. So I've always used this and seem to have good results. It says 1 to 2 tablespoons per transplant. I never use that much. I just put a little sprinkling on it. I did just, ooh, that's a little bit more than I wanted to use. I just had my soil tested and received the results, and I'm low in nitrogen, very low in nitrogen, and high or adequate for phosphorus and potassium, so I'm good there. But at any rate, just for these little guys, this will get them going. I just add a little to the surface, and then I just work it in. That way when it waters from the top, rains, it'll work it down into the soil. So there it is. There's one. Crown's up. It's in there. Get some water on it. It should be happy. And again, these are pretty resilient, so they should do well. What I'll also do is, we have some low temps coming, and they should do fine because the soil is warm. But I'm going to go ahead and do hoops over them and a little bit of frost cloth so that I can just ensure that I'm not jumping the gun and going a little too early on these. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these dug up. They're all planted. 2 more rows to do. Check back with you when I'm done. I have a total of 26 strawberries in this bed, 2 rows of 9, and the middle row has 8. Again, spacing them out to get them as close to the emitter as possible. I went ahead and those 2 rows added a little bit of that BioLife in the hole, because I usually do that, just so it's a little bit closer to the roots. And I know that it's a slower release, as it'll take some time to feed those. I do have another 24 plants to dig up in this bed, depending on whether I have any that didn't survive. I also have an additional 24 already potted up, so that's like about 50. Okay, so next year, when I think I learned my lesson from this, I don't really like, once something is rooted, I don't really like killing it or throwing it away. So next year what I'm going to do is, if I want any, or if I know anybody that wants any, I might go ahead, and what I usually do, the method I do, is when a runner comes out of the plant, it'll be a long runner, and on the end of it, it'll start to develop a strawberry plant. And then when it lays on the soil, it will start to root in. So this year I'll be a little bit more selective, and I will use some pots like this, these little 3-inch pots that I will put soil in, and I will cut down the sides, punch out the sides a little bit for that runner to get into it so that the strawberry can lay on the soil. And then I'll use one of these little landscape staples to hold the runner into the soil to give it its best chance for rooting. And once it develops, a good set of roots and it's in there really firm, I can go ahead and cut it off the mother plant, and I can remove it out of the bed. And then the mother plant isn't using all of its energy to try to keep this little start alive as well. And then it'll go into producing more strawberries, which is what I want. So let's take a look real quick at that one I told you that was, I didn't plant deep enough. See, it's very wiggly. That could be due to the winds working it back and forth, not having as many roots connecting it. And I'm not sure, I don't see anything happening on it. So I may need to replace it with this little guy. I'll just move him over so he's a little closer to the emitter hole here. But learned my lesson on that one. It was the only one I did like that. I don't really know what happened. Lastly, I thought I would show you how I cover my beds with frost cloth. When we moved in, there were these slats for chain link fence that go in for somewhat privacy into the chain link that were left here on the property. So my husband suggested I use these to use them as hoops for anything that's low growing that I'm covering. It doesn't work on anything that's obviously taller because these are a little bit short. But I just use 4 to 5 depending on how big the bed is, and I just shove them down into the soil. And then on the other side, like this one, then I will just put it on this side and make the hoops very nicely. And the cloth is lightweight, so it holds it up nicely as well. It doesn't push them down. As you can see, these are a little squishy, but I use this cloth and I'll drape this cloth. It's sheer, it's very, it rips very easily, but I'll drape this over the hoops, and then either use wood on the mulch on the outside of it to hold it down, or preferably I have clamps that I will go through and put on the outside of the wood to hold this to it. And does really well, except for maybe super windy days, it'll end up tearing it. But it's a good cover to protect them. So I'll not do that for a few days. We're going to have a 26-degree night, and I think I'll do it for then. But since it's supposed to rain for the next couple of days, I want these to get pretty good saturated, so I won't cover them. So anyway, that wraps it up for my strawberry transplanting. I hope you found it useful, and I will see you next time. Thanks, bye.